Today we're going to be showing you the top 5 headlight options for your Toyota Tacoma. We're going to be comparing headlights ranging from $400 all the way to $1,600 so you can determine what's best for you. We're even going to show you how to uninstall and install them. To put these headlights to the test, we're going to be considering the following variables. 1, ease of install. 2, light features. We're going to be going over each headlight's light features and what they have to offer. And 3, the most important of them all, light output. Which one of these headlights will be the brightest? At the end of the video, you should be able to make an informed decision on which one of these headlights is best for you. Let's go over the headlights that we will be reviewing on this video. Starting with the most budget-friendly option, we have the XT projector headlight for $448. Then we will move to the Alpha Owls Quad Pro headlight for $799. The Morimoto XB headlights for $1,489. Then we will be installing the Alpha Rex TRD Pro Style headlight for $1,365. And finally on our list, we have the Spider Auto multi-beam headlight for $1,678. Now that you've seen all the headlights that we're going to be installing today, we're going to show you how to remove your stock headlights and show you how easy it is to install each one of these headlights and some of the differences between installing each one of these. If you're not interested in the installation part of this video, then make sure to use the chapter markers below to skip through this part. Right now, I'm going to show you how to remove your stock headlights from your Toyota Tacoma. One thing I want to point out is take a look at the amount of chrome that Toyota has added to these headlights. Chrome reminds me of the 50s, those boat-looking cars, and I really don't like it. Whenever I see it, I try to remove it. We're using a 10mm socket to remove this bolt so we can push the fender liner back, reach in there, and that will allow us to remove the fender. Then you're going to use a flathead screwdriver. You're just going to move it to the side, and then that should free it up. Now the fender liner has been loose. We're gonna stick our hand in there. So there's gonna be a total of 3 tabs that are holding the fender. But your goal is to put your hand in like I showed you and then push with your finger. That way you can loosen the fender. And that way it'll come out like this. Now that the fender has been removed, we can pry the bumper away from the headlight. It's gonna sound really nasty, but it's perfectly fine. This is going to allow us to have access to a 10mm bolt that's in there. We won't be able to push this down until we do the other side. Now we're going to repeat the same steps that I just showed you on this side. After you remove the fender and the bumper from both sides, now we're going to move up to removing the grille. You're going to use a 10mm socket to remove these 2 bolts that are up here. Now we're going to use this tack puller to remove these 2 tabs that are on top of the grill. By using a flathead screwdriver, we're going to remove the Toyota safety sensor cable that is holding the grill to the truck. And then you have another one on this side. I like to remove this cable because it makes it easier to disconnect this connector. Depending on how old your truck is or how used it's been, it's going to be it's going to be a bit of a challenge to unplug. There we go. Now that that's been disconnected, we're going to pull the grill out. Use your tag puller to remove the 6 tags that are going to be attaching the bumper to the frame. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Since all 6 tabs have been removed, it has allowed me to push the bumper back and allowed me to have enough clearance to reach the 10mm bulb that's in here, and also when I remove the headlights, it will not scratch them. One advice that I would like to give you guys, if you don't want to scratch your bumper, put blue painter's tape right now all over the bumper. As you're taking the headlight, you might scratch it. Now we're going to proceed to removing the headlights. There's going to be 3 bolts that you need to remove. 1, 2, and the 3rd one that's on the side. By using a 10mm socket, we're going to start with the one at the bottom. I usually like to leave the bolt in there. I'm going to proceed to the 2 top ones. Now we can remove the headlight, but we still need to disconnect all the cables that are in the back. Sometimes this likes to get stuck in there, so just pry that out. This one should come right out. And then in order to disconnect all the connectors, you're going to want to pull the headlight out carefully without scratching it or scratching your bumper. I've done this a couple times, that's why I'm not adding blue painter's tape, but I recommend you guys do that. All right, so now we're able to disconnect the connectors. Here we're just gonna twist, pull out. This one you have to push with your finger down and pull. You're gonna have to wiggle them around. You could make it easier for yourself and twist this like this, push it out, but then the whole bulb comes out. We're gonna have to remove the bulb in order to use that connector for the aftermarket headlights. Comes out. Just like that, headlight comes right out. If you have any of the TRD models, you're gonna have 5 connectors. If you have the base model or the SR5, you should have only 4 connectors. So make sure when you order your aftermarket headlight that you are choosing the correct variant option. So you have the option to use that one, or you can leave this inserted there, and you have the option to use this one. It all depends on the headlight manufacturer. If your aftermarket headlight comes with bulbs already, then you won't be needing these. You can just go ahead and install these back into the headlight. Now we're gonna repeat the same thing on the other side. Now I'm gonna show you how to install your aftermarket headlights. Unfortunately, one of the downsides from the budget-friendly option is that it does not come with a cover. So I'm gonna use the one from the other headlights that we're reviewing to make sure we apply this here. You do not wanna scratch your lens. I cannot mention the amount of times that we've had our customers reach out to us saying that they scratched their headlights, that they now need help with a new set of headlights, all because they did not protect it before installing. And if you guys don't have this plastic cover, then I recommend you guys use painter's tape. Cover it as much as you can. All we're gonna do is plug and play. So you're gonna get the connector. Here it's, so you can see it says low beam. This is your high beam. Go ahead and connect that. Make sure it clicks. I'm gonna do the same thing. And we're gonna do the same thing for this side. Clicks. This one will then go on the side for the side marker. And then your 5th connector plugs right in. This part might be a little bit of a challenge just because of the awkward shape of the headlight. You're gonna have to wiggle it in there. That's why you wanna have this to protect the headlight and also have blue painter's tape on your bumper so you're not scratching it as you're wiggling it in there. I usually like to get the biggest part, the bottom, first. One thing that I use to help me align the headlight when installing it is use this as a guideline to push and clip into this clipper. Once you've wiggled it in there, now you can go ahead and remove anything you might have used to protect the headlight. We're gonna make sure the headlight is aligned all around and that everything has been clipped in. You can technically bolt everything back together the same way that I showed you how to remove it, but before you do that and you go through the hassle of doing all that, you're gonna wanna test to make sure that all the connectors and all the lights are working fine. In case you need to do any adjustments, now's the time to test for that. All right, so now we're gonna turn it on to see if the headlight, the low beam turns on with the DRL. Turn signal. And now we're gonna test for the high beam. Since everything's working properly, we can now move on to the other side, and then we're gonna test for the other side, and then we're gonna bolt everything back together. One thing I didn't mention on the other side is how to tell which one's your high and low beam. Green is your low beam, and the yellow will be your high beam, okay? And then the headlights are usually marked with which one's the low and the high. So we're gonna go ahead and connect our low beam and repeat the same process that I showed you guys on the other side. We've tested for both headlights. They're both working perfectly fine. It's time to screw everything back together and see how this truck looks. First thing we're gonna wanna do is bolt down the headlight. If you're using power tools, make sure to be careful. We are screwing this on a plastic tab. If you overdo it, you will strip it. Just as soon as the washer reaches the bottom, you stop. On the side here, you're gonna wanna make sure that this plastic bracket is aligned with the hole in there. And then before I use my power tool, I do like to hand tighten this to make sure that the threads are going in nicely. You want to make sure you do not strip that bolt. So now that I can confirm that it's going in nicely, I can use my power tool, and again, do not overdo it. As soon as you feel it reach the bottom, you stop. Now you can repeat that same step on the other side. Now it's time for us to install the bumper. You're gonna wanna make sure that this centerpiece has been lifted. And then you're gonna move over to the side, align this bumper to that plastic bracket that I showed you guys earlier. Just by using the palm of your hands, you're gonna push down until everything falls into place. So you can see the line is super flush. We're gonna repeat that on the other side. Going to align the bumper. Use your palm of your hand to push it down. Everything falls into place. And now you can insert your fender. Same thing, using the palm of your hand. I'm gonna push down. There we go. And everything is back to stock. We're gonna repeat the same thing we did here with the fender on the other side. And then you're gonna use your tabs. And the 6 tabs that we removed, we're gonna insert them back in, just like that. Super easy. Push, push. Now the bumper's in place, the headlights are in place. Now we're gonna put the grill back on the truck. You're gonna have to align every single one of these into the bumper, okay? One way that I like to do it, I first like to start from the top and align these two to the top right here. So I start in there. And then you also have this and this as guidelines. You're gonna have to lift up. And then make sure all the lines are sitting nice and flush. Once you have confirmed that all the lines are sitting nice and flush, you can come up here, install the 2 tabs, one on this side, one on the other. And then we're gonna use the 2 final screws to make sure the grill is bolted down nice and tight. Again, don't tighten it all the way. If you're using power tool, just to when it reaches the bottom. And then the final step is to bolt down the fender lining. We're gonna use our 10mm socket to tighten up this bolt. And then you have this last sort of button tab that we're just gonna push in there. Once that's in, you push, and then using a flathead screwdriver, you're gonna lock it in place. Just like that, fellas, we removed our headlights and we showed you how to install aftermarket headlights. Take a look at how awesome these look. After installing and uninstalling each one of these headlights, we noticed that they're pretty much all plug and play and should take you no more than an hour to install. There were 2 headlights though, the Alpha X and the Morimoto, that did have an additional step. It was that additional wire harness that it comes with, but it's not rocket science, it's nothing crazy. The Morimoto headlights are also plug and play, but they're a little bit more hands-on. If your truck does not come with the factory LED option, then you are going to have to connect this wire harness into your fuse panel or go all the way to the fuse box, go through the firewall and reach in there, right? There's 2 options you can do that. Thankfully, our truck does come with the factory LED option, so we did not have to use this wire harness. Now, one really cool thing I like about the Morimoto headlights is they give you the option, they give you 2 options. They give you the option to have the sequential turn signal or a standard blinking, like on and off, on and off. And you do that by simply removing one of the connectors that comes in the headlight. You simply remove it. By removing it, you have the sequential turn signal. By leaving it on, you have the standard blinking. When installing the Alpha X headlight, I noticed that it's still plug and play, but there's a few things that I need to go over with you. For the base model and SR5 models, you're gonna be fine if you just order this headlight. The SR5 and base models only have 4 connectors. So you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, and then 4, right? 4 connectors. You are gonna have to use the additional wire harness in order for your DRLs to work. If you have the TRD off-road model or any of the TRD models, then you will have to use, like once you select that from the variant option, you will receive these adapters. Those will simply plug and play right here. And then this one is your DRL, will plug in here. For the TRD models, you have 5 connectors. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 5 connectors for the TRD models. You're perfectly fine there for TRD models, but if you want that really cool light feature sequence that the truck does with the Alpha X, then you are also going to have to install this on the truck. And it's really easy, guys. You have the positive and the negative that go to your battery terminal. Instead of you connecting this, you are now using this one to connect to the driver's side, this one to the passenger. One of them is longer. You can use that to wire through the grill. And then you're gonna have to go through your firewall with this fuse and tap into the ignition fuse so that you can have constant power. That way when you unlock and lock your truck, you have the cool light sequence that you guys are seeing right now. Now, the Morimoto and the Alpha X headlights were the only headlight that did have the low beam marked, making it easier for the end customer to know where each connector goes. If manufacturers out there are looking at this video, that's something that's so easy to add to the headlight that will make it that much better. One thing that we noticed out of these 5 headlights, only 2 did not come with shrink wrap. Those were the XT projector headlights and the Spider Auto multi-beam headlights. If you do receive these headlights, make sure you do add blue painter's tape in order to prevent your lens from scratching. Let's move on to reviewing the headlight features. We're gonna start with DRLs. It's important that if you're gonna be buying one of these headlights, that the DRLs are bright during the day. After all, DRL stands for daylight running light. Right off the bat, when we tested the first headlight, we tested the XT projector headlight. We noticed it was really hard to tell if the DRLs were on. We actually had to kind of get low and see if they were on, and it wasn't until you got really close that you can see that they were on. Moving on to the Alpha Owls, they were slightly brighter. One thing that I did like about them was that they had 2 DRLs. You know, they had the white one that goes across the headlight, and then you had the amber one. I think that was a really nice touch by Alpha Owls. Really cool and really creative. Completely different than the rest of the headlights. Moving on to the Morimoto, this was a game changer for us. Right away, we noticed that they were extremely bright compared to the other 2 options that we just mentioned. And it wasn't until Alpha X came in that it really got us excited. We were like, man, these DRLs are really, really bright. You can see them from really far away. As far as the Spider Auto headlights, I would say they landed in between the Alpha Owls and the Morimoto. They were bright, but definitely nowhere near as bright as the Alpha X. I think the Alpha X headlights definitely take the win here, but it's not until we wait until it gets late at night and use the light meter to help us measure the lux that we'll be able to know exactly which one of these DRLs is the brightest. Now we're gonna look at them at nighttime. We made sure that we left the settings on our camera exactly the same for all of these tests. And right off the bat, you can clearly see that the Alpha X are the brightest of them all. Any brighter and they would have burnt the screen. The XT projector headlight, you can clearly see that the light's there, but it's not shining any brightness around it. The second brightest one on the list was the Morimoto. Then I would say goes the Spider Auto and then the Alpha Owls. So the 2 least brightest are the Alpha Owls and the XT projector headlights. Definitely the top 3 brightest are the Alpha X, Morimoto, and Spider Auto. Now let's go over the side reflectors. They're pretty much all the same except the Spider Auto multi-beam headlights. They decided to go with the biggest side reflector. It looks kind of like a triangle on this side. And the one that has the smallest reflector is the Morimoto. They definitely try to keep it as small as possible. I know that we would prefer not to have the reflector on the side, but in order to stay DOT compliant, it is necessary for us to have the reflector. Now we're gonna go over the projectors. We're gonna check out low beams, high beams, turn signals, and so forth. For the XT projector headlight, you have your low beam on the outer projector, then you have your high beam in the inner projector. Thought that was pretty cool. Then the turn signal. The turn signal goes only halfway. It does not finish the full C, which is something I wish they would have done from the start. It looks like it's about to finish and then it just kind of dies out. It's still really, really nice though. Especially for 450 bucks, these headlights are really surprising me, and they're defending themselves along with some big players here. Now, if we take a look at the alpha owls, like I mentioned before, I really like that there's two colors to these DRLs. You have the top one that's white, and then the bottom one that's amber, but we're looking at low beam. So the low beam is the 4 projectors that are at the top, extremely bright from just observing it right now. And then as soon as you switch on your high beam, the bottom part of the headlight in the corner lights up. This is an awesome selection from Alpha Owls. Definitely when it comes to creativity, Alpha Owls is winning here. A lot of these lights look very similar. Alpha Owls, you can clearly tell, does not look similar, and I love how creative they got with this headlight. As for the turn signal on the Alpha Owl, I love it that it's sequential. It's completely different from the rest. Really creative, and I like it. Now let's take a look at the Morimoto headlights. I love it that their low beam is all 3 projectors. Then when we hit the high beam, we can see that the inner projector turns on. Really cool, everything still stays on. I love it when headlight manufacturers do that, when every single component inside the headlight is on at all times. And then when we look at the turn signal, right now you're looking at the sequential turn signal that they offer, but they also give you the option to choose from a standard flashing just on and off. And I think that's really cool from Morimoto that they're giving you 2 options here to choose from. Next on the list is the Alpharex headlight. One of the features of this headlight that makes it stand out from the rest is the light sequence that it does when you unlock and lock your truck. It's almost as if the truck is greeting you as you're walking up to it. I love it because it reminds me of Knight Rider. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie back in the day, and it reminds me of that scene. The low beam activates the 3 outer projectors, and then when you hit the high beam, it will activate the inner projectors. There are rumors that Alpharex is gonna be changing it so that the 2 inner projectors are the ones that light up when you hit your high beams, so that the high beam could be brighter. And then when we look at the turn signal, it's a sequential turn signal that is really nice to the eye. It's almost like eye candy. Lastly on our list are the Spider Auto multi-beam headlights. If we take a look at this headlight, one of the things that makes it stand out from the rest is the square housing around the projectors. If we look at the low beam, it's all 4 projectors. When we activate the high beam, the 2 inner projectors will turn on. And then for the turn signal, Spider Auto did something different here. They removed this vent looking piece in order to give them enough space inside the headlight housing to add their turn signal. I wanna know which headlight feature you guys like the best. Let us know in the comment section below, and let us know what you guys would like to see on future headlight models. The last feature we're gonna be going over before we move on to the light output test is testing for condensation. We're going to test how sealed these headlights really are. In order to do this, we're going to simulate as if the truck was going through a car wash or it was just simply raining. We're going to water the headlights for 10 solid minutes and see if we see any condensation. And we're gonna do this for all 5 headlights. Dude, I'm getting in there, like I'm going in there. Like I don't even think even on a crazy rainstorm, like that much water goes in there. What's the time, David? We're done. We're done? All right, I am not seeing condensation happen. It's awesome. For $400, a lot of you think $400 for a headlight. For a pair of headlights is a lot. And no, $400 for a pair of headlights is extremely budget friendly, especially going through the condensation test and not receiving any condensation. That's a huge plus. All right, now we're gonna be testing for the condensation on the Alpha Owls. 10 minutes, start now. No condensation for test number 2 here. 3rd condensation test. We're testing for the Morimoto XB headlights. Here we go. 10 minutes, start now. Condensation test number 3 is complete for the Morimoto XB headlights. As you guys can see, no condensation happened. We tried really hard. We had the engine on to keep it nice and hot in there. We had the lights on to change the temperature inside the headlight with the temperature that's outside. And we're also playing with humidity right now. We're in Florida and it's really humid out here. and it's safe to say there's no condensation on the Morimoto headlights. Condensation test number 4 on the AlphaX TRD Pro Style headlights. Another 10 solid minutes for test number 4, and we are not seeing any signs of condensation. Condensation test number 5 on the most expensive headlights on our list starts now. All right, officially we're done with the condensation test. All 5 headlights passed. This is awesome. Manufacturers have been really working hard for the past few years to properly seal the headlights. You guys are spoiled. 10 years ago, when I started all this, we had to deal with cheap eBay headlights, or we had to retrofit our own headlights in order to make them look cool, or simply black out the inner housing. Nowadays, you guys have these headlights that are all properly sealed. Now, if you do happen to see some condensation because some of you do live under some extreme weather conditions, that does not mean that your headlight is broken. It's when you see those huge water droplets or water flowing inside your headlight when you know your headlight is broken or not properly sealed. Thankfully, all 5 headlights passed, all the way from the budget-friendly headlight to the most expensive headlight on our list. Now we're gonna be doing a light output test. We're out here in the middle of nowhere in this extremely dark trail, and we've set an array of cones all the way to 120 feet. We have this light meter that is gonna allow us to measure which headlight is the brightest. We're gonna be measuring for the DRL lights, the low beam, and the high beam. Let's go find out which one of these headlights is the brightest. We're at 30 feet exactly. What is that telling me right there? We're back in the studio. Let's go over the light output results. First on the list is gonna be DRLs. One thing that really surprised us was that the stock DRLs actually beat all 5 headlights by a lot. It got a lux of 63. The next on the list was the AlphaX, and I knew this was gonna happen. I could see it with my eyes. It got a lux of 48. Then third on the list was the Morimoto with a lux of 18. So it did drop significantly from 48 all the way to 18. Then the Spider Auto came in 4th with a lux of 13.8. And then the loser of the 5 was the XT projector headlights with a lux of 0.90. That is something that we noticed, that the budget-friendly headlight did not have a strong DRL. That's something that's important for you guys. That's something to consider. This is a $400 headlight, and we're comparing it to headlights that cost $1,000. Let's take a look at the low beam now. The Spider Auto multi-beam headlights is a clear winner here. The AlphaX and Morimoto really battled it out and destroyed the stock headlights, and the Alpha Owls and XT projector headlights defended themselves against the stock headlights. It was interesting to see how the budget-friendly option from the list for $400 was able to fight against the Alpha Owls, the stock headlights that we get from Toyota. And the best thing is, you can make these even brighter by just switching the bulbs in here. It does void the factory's warranty because you are breaking the seal. So as long as you can figure out a way to properly seal them with an upgraded bulb, you could get this headlight as the most budget-friendly option and upgrade the LEDs. Could potentially even beat some of these, I would say. That's a test for another day. Finally, on our high beam test, we can see we have a clear winner here. The Spider Auto multi-beam headlights beat the rest of the headlights significantly by a lot. Then it was a battle between the AlphaX, Alpha Owls, and Morimoto headlights, all the way from 30 feet to 120 feet. They were basically all the same. Third on the list would be stock headlights, only up to 60 feet. After that, the comparison between the stock headlights and the XT projector headlights was pretty much all the same, from 60 feet all the way to 120 feet. It's time for us to choose a headlight that will be installed in our giveaway truck, the truck that we'll be giving away at the end of the year. Ladies and gentlemen, this decision was not easy. You can't go wrong with any of these headlights. We know that the XT projector headlight was the best bang for the buck based on the results and all the light features we showed you. You might think that we're going for the brightest headlight here, and that was the Spider Auto multi-beam headlight. But it's not only about how bright a headlight can be. We want a headlight that looks good all around 24/7. The Alpha Owls have a really interesting look to them, but was not my style. And we were left with two contenders, the Morimoto and the Alpha X. The Morimoto, I love it that they give you two options for the turn signal. You have the option for a sequential or a simple standard blinking on and off feature. I did not like that it has like a bulgy look to it and only 3 projectors. For the Alpha X headlights, I love it that it has a similar style to the TRD Pro style headlights, and it has an OEM look to it. I love how bright the DRL is all around during the day and night. It was one of the brightest ones on the results, and my absolute favorite feature of them all is the light sequence that it has. When you unlock and lock your vehicle, when you walk towards it, it's almost like the truck is welcoming you. Ladies and gentlemen, the headlight that's gonna be installed on Project Great White is the Alpha X headlights. We hope all the information we provided on this video is going to help you make an informed decision on which headlight is right for you. We'll make sure to put a link to all these headlights in the description below. If you want to win these headlights plus a brand new 2021 Toyota Tacoma plus $15,000 cash, then check the link in the description below and get yourselves entered to win. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button. If you haven't already done so, make sure to subscribe. We're always coming out with some awesome content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.